Oh, I saw you got accustomed to a slumped down shoulder.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, children of all ages, coast to coast across America and around the world, it is me, your host, the very right Reverend Brother Pastor Deacon Dr. Andrew Ward, right here, right now, connecting from the big, easy crescent city that care forgot beneath the sea over to Bishop, California. And our guest in the non-studio, in fact, his own living room with an artificial plant behind him next to deep spring water wells. Wait, is it real?
That's a real Monstera.
That's a real Monstera, ladies and gentlemen. Just so you know, no fake Monsteras for our interview here today, is none other than Stelth Ulvang, ladies and gentlemen. Stelth Ulvang, once upon a time, originally from Fort Collins, Colorado, a native son of the Centenary State. You basically rose to fame through coffee shop management and being an ice cream salesman at one point in time, if I'm not mistaken, barefoot and train hopping for the better part of a misspent youth. And then eventually finding his way to start a band called the Dovekins over on the Front Range, and then finding your way to the Lumineers, and still somehow managing to find time for your own solo explosion. Stelth, how do you do it all?
Say yes to everything. That's my rule of thumb anyway. And then you just end up doing too much.
So one of the things that you said yes to was the way that I had the pleasure and privilege of meeting you, which was performing in East Africa. Can you tell us a little bit about how everything that I just described led to you being on stage on the other side of the world?
We met Jamie. I started seeing him around some of these local events, good causes, fundraisers, etc. And he'd mentioned he was part of this group, GLI, or when I say part of, spearheading, and was working on bringing artists to East Africa, primarily Uganda and Rwanda. But we all know all this, right? And anyway, he pitched it to me, and I, of course, say, this sounds amazing. There I was, Uganda, flying in to meet a bunch of people and musicians I'd never met before in my life to play with. And it was really, really exciting bout of introductions, jet lagged in the airport. And I think maybe that's where we met as well.
Tell us a little bit about that experience. What was it like, in that haze of jet lag and exhaustion, from arriving to interacting with local artists to performing in front of some 25,000 people, which you're no stranger to from your own career, but, in rapid succession across the country. What was that like?
I think at first I was trying to keep an open mind about the entire thing. I talked first to Seth Goldstein, who kind of was giving me like a little more, he's like, let me give it to you straight kind of thing. And, but it was still nothing maybe that I was new to. I traveled in South Africa and and played around all of Southern Africa. And I played a lot of festivals down there. And he kind of had this, he needed to just set it up that maybe everything wasn't going to run as smoothly as far as sound. And stages were maybe going to be made out of pallets at some point. And so he kind of scared me a little bit in this sense, because then I got there and I was like, oh no, I'm used to this. This is like just if much better than playing a festival, say in Alabama.
Hey,
everybody had their crap together. It was really nice. So I was frightened a bit. That's all I'm saying. And then I was just really blown away by, I think, the warm welcome from everybody, the community. A lot of people had told me, especially, they were like, what, Ugandans are the nicest people. And everybody will be really encouraging and really, really talkative and stuff like that. And that's my MO, is people trying to pull me out of conversation. So I dove in fast and hard, meeting people, and was really excited about conversations and just talking to people, and had a really good time. We were doing this thing where we were playing music with local musician bands or groups that were playing traditional music as well as non-traditional music. And I know it's a cliche, but music is really what do they say, the universal language. It was pretty amazing how quickly you could just get past even lack of English or Ugandan communication. It was amazing how quickly everybody could kind of get communicating. And so I would think I was relatively nervous at first, and it was just amazing how much everything flowed and felt second nature, I suppose.
Oh yeah, and I mean, there's no shortage of recollections from the people in Lira, Masaka, and Kabale of you leaping around on stage playing some down home blues, doing Clock Tower, one of your signature pieces, and getting, especially in Masaka, that group Drumbeat of Africa, Drumbeat of Uganda rather,
Yeah.
to join in and do their stuff on top of it. Now, one thing I know our viewers might be interested in is you were not in the pinnacle of health and well-being at that time.
Oh yeah, that's true. I did get slumped over a motorcycle, and somebody just drove me to a hospital earlier, I think, that day. And then they got me on antibiotics real fast for some funky stuff that I drank in the water. I was doing such a good job not drinking water. I don't know. It must have slipped into my mouth at some point. Who knows?
But then you did the show, and what was it like doing an original song like that with a traditional Ugandan band behind you, and 25,000 Masakans in front of you?
Oh, it was so fun. Yeah, at first, I think people will look at you as you're standing up on stage and they're like, all right, what are you going to do? And this is true everywhere. And you kind of have a moment to kind of set up how it's going to look for the next so and so amount of time. And so it felt important to kind of give it my 110%, 200,010% there. But it was really fun. It was as soon as we would shout, and Isabel Fries, she was singing with me too, and the rest of y'all, the band, had learned all these chords. So it was good feeling like I had this cushion of people behind me on that tune who trusted me and would let me go wherever I needed. And I think with anywhere, the crowd will just come to you.
I'd like to sort of pick your brain about this notion of universality here. I mean, you have, as you mentioned earlier, you had done some music work in South Africa previously. You've crisscrossed the country, how many dozens, hundreds of times in all these different places, including savage developing countries like Alabama. And in that process, what were some of the takeaways that American members of the music industry could learn from their counterparts in Uganda?
Growing up in high school and was playing in jazz band, it was so much more about listening than theory and learning notes. And even still, if you get into situations, most times you're playing with people now, professional musicians, they want to lay out charts with you and everything like that. And I'm always at least pride myself in being quick to try to figure out something by ear. And I think that's something that was a skill set that all of the musicians that were there, so many came from New Orleans, where jazz thrives, and playing by ear is everything. And I think that's what made a lot of those musicians fit in so well, is they were all jazz musicians who could find so easily where everything sat without having to be like, theoretically, here's the 4 and they're going back to the 1 and here's the 2. But man, it's amazing how few musicians listen, considering the basis of an entire art form is
Auditory.
in your ears. But no, when you're playing with people that you don't have this commonality of musical terms, or even if you do, you don't have the language to express it, I think you don't need it out the window. It's just so nice how quickly people are like excited and encouraging about just playing back and forth and listening to something and then trying stuff out. So.
And a lot of the listening at that point was also to the community, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of what their needs were with regard to healthcare. And so the provision of HIV testing, cervical cancer screenings, and even lots and lots of adult male surgical circumcisions. Now, here we are in another public health emergency. So I'm curious, what are you hearing? And, what does this do for your own artwork and your own creative outflow?
Well, no, a lot of people have said, man, at least you're going to have all this time off. You can start creating. You're going to be so creative. You're going to have a lot of output and creative output. And it's actually been harder to maybe jump on that creative bandwagon. So I've gone back to a lot of kind of rudimentals. I've been learning scales. I've been learning new instruments, like reforming everything more as a, if I'm not mistaken, right brain activities, and turning musical into that. But I've been playing a lot online. I've been doing, songs that I've written and performing on Instagram Live and stuff like that, where it's nice to have immediate feedback. You can be like, what song do you want to hear me play? And there's a new challenge to that of being like, oh yeah, this song, like it's interesting. Somebody wants to hear that, but I'll pull it from my memory and play it, which I kind of love about it. And it's really hard without a crowd of people. You just have to assume that maybe somebody clapped or maybe somebody coughed. But so those are kind of been my two levels of creating right now. I'm working on a long piece right now for this collective called the Satellite Collective in New York City, and I'm working on a musical piece that will be played from a blimp flying over the city.
Well, I know our viewers would definitely like to see and hear what that actually sounds like. Would you mind giving us a little taste, maybe sharing with us either something recent or maybe an old favorite?
You know, I think I could play. Yeah, give me 1 second.
Oh yeah.
Let me try this piece about death and rebirth, and sometimes letting things stay buried, but in the guise of almost a love song. So I'll try to play it. You were born in a southern town. Oops. You would work till the sun goes down, and then you'd work again. If we'd have met, we'd have done it then. What a wonder that we thought up all the space between the masts. Packed a bundle before you left. I gave you mango. You laid there on your back among the scent, and you kicked off your feet already wet. Hair was tangled, the sun behind your broken silhouette, but I look for another with the same name. And when I'd paint you, I'd picture you the same, but you change, you change, you change. But aren't we all just a little bit mad and made up of stepping stones before the world ends? I always sat round a fire pit, leave it burning, charred remains before we're off and gone to bed. I look for another with the same name. And when I'd paint you, oh, I'd picture you the same, but you change, you change, you change, you change, you change, you change.
Bravo, bravo, bravo!
Orchestration, harmonies.
I love it. I love it. Is this something that could come out of a blimp one day?
That's my plan. That's the goal.
Is this part of the greater blimp symphony?
Yeah, most of it is this would be like an end. You know how Disney movies will have a song at the end. Finally, they've put lyrics and they have Mariah Carey come and sing one of the hits from the song. It's more like that.
It's more like that. That's tremendous. Very few people hear about a museum fire and are inspired to artistic creation. That's something obviously moved you to quite an extent.
Yeah, well, no, it's kind of it's a sad song,
but also a love song.
It's a love song. I think it's just this idea of things that keep going and how hard it is to kind of hold on to them, especially in a mass historical context.
And I mean, what could be more timely than what the planet Earth is dealing with at this exact moment?
I know you mentioned it earlier, and I don't know if this will fit in at all, but just about, again, one of my favorite things about GLI is I think their value in destigmatizing a lot of otherwise negative, around sex conversations and stuff like this, and sexual health, which is otherwise very kind of
Taboo.
avoided, it seems like, if not nil, in a lot of places in Uganda and Rwanda. And I think it's that part of the context of that around the festivals I'm really into. I loved the idea of tossing condoms out to the crowd and being like, look, if this is going to happen, which it seems like it's going to forever and has forever in the past, do it safely.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed at how many places, and this is, continue to kind of hold this stigma around talking about sex, but that feels very similar right now, I think, to the World Health crisis that's happening. It just seems hard to access information, for everybody to access truthful information, I think, about what should be the best course of action around a global health pandemic. So.
And where are you getting your information?
Only follow Trump's Twitter feed. That's it.
There we go. Now you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, I'm getting my information from a lot of places. You start on Instagram and then you go on you just go down a wormhole of, but you have the CDC, you have the World Health Organization, which have done massive things, and including stuff for HIV and AIDS and AIDS Week as well. I remember seeing bulletin boards, what do you call them? Big
Billboards.
Billboards, that's right. I remember seeing big billboards in Uganda that had the I'm trying to think of the slogan.
Know your status.
Know your status, but there was this get rechecked, like know your status and continuing to know your status, I think is a really valuable message that now that I'm thinking about it, S-Rap had a great rap about.
Nice shout out for S-Rap.
Yeah, love him. This is the worst part about all of the tours getting canceled, is the only way I get to see all of these friends around the world is I was going to be in
for Jazz Fest. It just got canceled today. I know, my heart is broken. You and the Lumineers were going to be right there up on stage in my backyard.
I was so excited about it, but we'll be there next year or whatever. However, everyone's planning on doing it.
For someone who is maybe just starting out or aspiring, they're home right now with their guitar, with their notebook. Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, if you're not feeling creative, I think that's really discouraging. And I've talked to a lot of people who are like, man, you just want to write now that you have finally all the space in the world. You've been asking for it. Now you have it and you have nothing. And I think that's down to a matter of writer's block. But I find crapping out content is the best method. I'm a friend of mine and I have a song a day challenge. The song has to be longer than 30 seconds is our rule. And we'll have little prompts like write a jingle about gum or something. You know what I mean? That really is like, I will never use this. I don't even want to tell the world that I just made, that I made a jingle about gum, but it's just something to keep your fingers moving. And in the daytime, I'm practicing scales and I have so many alarms because I have a sourdough. I'm learning to make sourdough and I'm just ruining it right now because of all my timing is way off. But let it leaven.
Let it leaven. Has there been a 30-second jingle that you've come up with in this day challenge that maybe you can share with us? One that you actually did like. I will take your jingle about gum.
Well, there was the jingle about gum, but I don't think it's that great. I wrote a tune a few days ago when the prompt was yes man, or saying yes, which is what we were talking about at the beginning. So I could play it for you. It's probably only, I guess it's longer than, it's probably a minute and a half.
That'd be excellent.
The prompt was say yes, like the beginning of our conversation. But it was this was a song that I was kind of writing for my friend to be like, you got this, keep writing, keep like working on stuff, and I got your back. So that's the premise of this song. I literally wrote this entire song on the toilet. So I have a guitar hanging next to the toilet, and I feel when I hear friends at the house using it, I'm like, ooh, I wouldn't touch that if I were, you know, in the past.
Sanitize that. I hope all the Purell and Lysol wipes are right next to the frets. Good Lord. Take it away, Stelth.
Okay. If you want to take it slow, come on, buddy, let me know. Don't you worry, I'ma be your yeah, boy. If the lyrics way too long, you want to write a shorter song. Don't you worry, I'ma be your yeah, boy. It's so easy to get shit and taken down. Knows an easy answer from the crowd. Do it wrong or do it weird, it makes me proud. I got you, yeah, boy, I got you. And if you want to run away, wear toupees and change your name. Don't you worry, I will be your yeah, boy. If you want to stay inside, you be yours or you be mine. Either way, I got you, baby, yeah, boy. I'ma say yeah, it's a realistic yeah, or it's a revolution, yeah, it's a confusing yeah, it's a panoramic yeah, it's a talk about it yeah, but know that I got your back. And if you want to smash your axe, smoke a joint and just relax, don't you worry, I'ma be your yeah, boy. And if you write a better tune, sell it off and make it dude. Millionaires still need to have their yeah, boys. Cause it's so easy to get shit and taken down. Knows an easy answer from the crowd. Do it wrong or do it weird, it makes me proud. I got you, yeah, boy, I got you. It's so easy to get shit and taken down. Knows an easy answer from the crowd. Do it wrong or do it weird, it makes me proud. I got you, yeah, boy, I got you. I got you, yeah, boy, I got you. I got you, yeah, boy, I got you.
Woo, 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 I got you, yeah, boy. Oh, my Lord. That is a shining, weird light of positivity in these weird times.
Yeah.
I mean, so sort of doing the full circle connectedness, you talked at the very beginning of our discussion today about just being not a yes man to powers that be, but being open to the opportunities that come your way. And you also talked about the major takeaway in your time in East Africa of listening. Of just listening to see what was going on stage with the local artists, with the traditional artists, with the contemporary hip hop and reggaeton artists, and with the American artists that were visiting as well.
I think about that space that was in, was it outside of, not Kabali, but Kigali?
Oh, Ntusi.
Ntusi, thank you. Whenever I like staple myself into a place once and for all, the first thing I want to get is a big table. And I think, the idea of going to Uganda and in Ntusi, like the idea of these huge tables, which involve only basically encourage conversation and encourage listening to people. And it encourages almost a bit of like shouting and charisma and people going back and forth. Like there's this huge bond, I think, over giant dinner tables. And so I've been thinking a lot about that with Ntusi, and how those tables are like a perfect embodiment of that listen, think, act. Because then leaving that space in Ntusi, like as soon as you're like, okay, we're going down to the dock or whatever, or hey, we're going into town to do this thing. There's this like, we've been well fed, we've like been well educated, we've listened to people's stories, we've told our own, we've been really, I don't know, mind's blown at how many different stories exist in the world from all angles. And I think the best place to hear that, if not around a campfire, is going to be around a giant dinner table.
Thank you for the gift of your music. Please don't ever stop. And we hope that more invitations will result in a yes from you. Take care.
Thank you. See you later.
Love me like a denim, hold me like a in a